another podcast episode of the Sixers as they took on the Boston Celtics tonight, and they ended up losing by a final score of 121-87. It was not a good day at the office whatsoever. Okay, we'll talk a lot more about it. We'll break this puppy down, but I just wanted to remind you guys that before we dive into everything, okay, make sure that you join the Discord server if you have any sort of thoughts and want to give your takes on how the Sixers game went, and just talk a little bit about the game itself, what you didn't like, and maybe if there were any sort of positives that you took away from this game. I would like to hear from you all. So make sure that you join the Discord server, like, subscribe, share this video, and also my channel with other people too. We go on for Sixers games, Phillies games. We do also Patriots stuff as well, and Flyers content. So with that being said, enjoy the show. This is going to be a tough one. All right, so the Sixers tonight, they laid an egg. They laid an egg. That's all that it really was. They came out, they weren't shooting the ball really well. They were very flat, but this is the thing that actually kind of ticks me off, okay? I have been going on Twitter, and I've been seeing posts about, oh, this is why Joel Embiid and James Harden can't be together. And this is why that their playing styles, with what they put on display tonight, this is exactly why these two superstars can't play together. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but you're just flat out wrong, okay? You have not been watching basketball, Sixers basketball, all season long like I've been. Every single time that Joel Embiid and James Harden have conducted that pick and roll, that is deadly, okay? And tonight, what happened? Well, let's literally break this all down. Joel Embiid was rusty. That's one thing that we all thought was probably going to be a thing, okay? This dude hasn't played basketball in a couple of weeks. He had to get back into shape, okay? And it was actually, I think, a blessing that the Sixers were able to take game one, because I was thinking to myself, okay, if Embiid comes back and he's playing, there's definitely going to be some rust on the dust, okay? And he was just a little bit flat at the very beginning. He started to get things going a little bit. It was just really good to see him back out there on the floor, and I take that as a moral victory of a win for the Sixers in that sense, because I just like seeing him go out there and just playing on both ends of the floor. Okay, this dude had 5 blocks in the first half, and this game was like really close in the first half. With what happened in the second half was just that Boston was making more shots. That's really all it comes down to. The Sixers were not making their shots, and they had good looks. The shots just weren't falling tonight. I remember there was a couple of years ago when the Sixers played at the Wells Fargo Center on Christmas Day, okay? Every single Sixer was hitting their shots from 3. Josh Richardson had like 4 threes. Al Horford hit like 5 threes, okay? This was a team that didn't have any good shooters on the team around Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. And Tobias Harris hit 5 threes. Okay, it was just that time. It was just that type of a day. And nobody could be stopped because everybody was hitting their threes. Our threes just weren't going in tonight. And I've also seen games where the Sixers, they get blown out by 25 points against the Toronto Raptors. Then they win the next game by like 27 points. This is how playoff basketball is. And so if you're concerned about this blowout, the thing that I'm here to tell you is this. They took game 1, they stole game 1, and it's an even series. So now Boston has to do their part and take one in Philly. The Sixers, on the other end, have to try to do a better job and make adjustments. Were there things that went wrong tonight? Sure. Absolutely. Okay, I was not a fan as to the ball movement tonight. I said that the one thing that the Sixers had to do was try to have better ball movement. They only had 5 assists. 5 assists in the first half. That's it. And Boston's ball movement wasn't really that much better either, to be honest with you. The Sixers were just playing a whole lot of iso ball. James Harden was not hitting his shots, and that's what happens. That's exactly what happens. Also, Joel Embiid was trying to get back into the swing of things. I did see him hit that turnaround jumper a couple of times, and that was nice to see. But there was just a whole lot of iso ball movement, And the Sixers weren't getting like offensive rebounds like they should have been. You know, I was like looking up at the scoreboard, and I'm like, wow, they're only down by 8 points at halftime, and they actually have like only one less rebound compared to Boston. Like, that's insane, because I really felt like that the Sixers were getting blown out at that point. And finally, in that second half, I mean, really just in the third quarter, guys were just hitting their shots. Boston was getting more physical. They were more dominant, and they were also just hitting their shots. And it took such a big confidence boost out of the Sixers. And that's what happened tonight. They laid an egg, but it happens. The main goal is that you took game one. You went into TD Garden without your big man, and you took game one. You won the game. And now you put pressure on Boston. I think that it's nice that Embiid was back out there for this game. I thought I saw some really cool things from him on the defensive side. I also really thought that he got to the foul line a little bit. I mean, it wasn't a perfect game by any means because he didn't play well in that third quarter. But Boston, they made their adjustments. You know what they did? They went with a zone, and the Sixers, again, just had problems guarding that zone. It's just how it played out. There's going to be a lot more adjustments, I'm sure, that Doc Rivers is going to have to make. I don't think that Doc did a bad coaching job tonight. I just think that the team just wasn't making their shots. And I've seen Doc Rivers with his poor coaching strategies. Tonight, I didn't think he coached that bad. I really don't. I was actually kind of happy that he pulled Joel Embiid when he did, and he just played Paul Reed. But I don't know. I just think that a lot of people on Twitter are just taking this game out of proportion because this is just how the NBA playoffs works. You did your job. You won game one, and that is the bottom line. Can we be upset, though, about this game? Yeah, we can be a little bit bummed. I just have the mindset where, okay, I'm happy that we won game one, and we're going back to the Wells Fargo Center on Friday. And Boston, it's literally on them, okay? They split the series. The pressure was on Boston to win that game, and they did. Because imagine going down 2-0 in your house. Just imagine that. Just saying. The other thing that I also wanted to say, too, is that when guys are hitting their shots, that's how a lot of role players will hit their shots like at home with the crowd going crazy. And I really do believe that the Sixers are going to have a better shooting performance on Friday because, the fans are really going to be in there. And I just really have this gut feeling that George Niang and some of these guys that are, three-point specialists, if you will, D'Anthony Melton, they're all going to be hitting their shots. I do give Boston a lot of credit on the defensive side in a sense where I thought that they played a much better job at not isoing on the perimeter and, leaving guys in the high post open. I thought that they actually did a good job at switching. But the Sixers, even when they had wide open shots, they just looked like they were just off the iron. And again, those things happen. Shooters shoot. And I want Tyrese Maxey to still keep shooting the basketball. I still want Anthony Melton to keep shooting the basketball. I still want James Harden to shoot the basketball too, but if Embiid's not having himself a good night, I need James Harden to take over. And I thought that maybe he was a little bit cold tonight. There were some shots that I thought that he certainly could have made, but he didn't. Okay, I'm going to get to your calls in just a second because I do want to hear what you guys have to say. Like, don't get me wrong. But in all honesty, this was just a game to me where you just say to yourself, all right, we lost this game. We didn't have the best shooting performance. How do we respond? How do we go back home and say to ourselves, what do we have to do better? What do you have to do better? And I think that the answer is that they just got to do a better job at rebounding the basketball and also just moving the ball a lot more. That's what it comes down to for me. James Harden tonight, he had a double-double, but he only had 4 assists. The one thing that I saw that Boston actually did a really good job at is they not only put Marcus Smart on James Harden, but he got more attention because they realized that the ball movement was going to come from James Harden. If you're Doc Rivers, are you going to give Maxey the ball a little bit more and have him become more of a passer, or are you just going to have to find out ways for James Harden to, try to work around that? Look, he was 2 for 14 from the field tonight, and the ball. I think that Boston fans will certainly take that for sure. Embiid really only had 9 shots in 27 minutes. But I think that my whole point being is that James Harden wasn't making the shots. You have to turn him more into a passer. And they kind of did that. But the passes just weren't so flashy tonight. Especially in that second half. The game was close. Like in the first half, even though it felt like Boston had this big lead, it just got away in the third quarter because guys were making their shots. Like, look at Boston's bench, okay? Malcolm Brogdon had 23 points off the bench. And you know why? Because he was 6 for 10 from 3. Grant Williams hit all 4 of his threes from the bench. He was 4 for 8 from the field. He shot 50% from the field. Okay, between both of those guys right there, they shot 10 for 18 from three-point range. Derek White was 3 for 6, okay? He had a really bad game in his last time out. Marcus Smart had some really big buckets in that first half. Jaylen Brown was going off. Jason Tatum only had 7 points, and yet Jaylen Brown's impact was just that much more sensational. Al Horford also made some really good defensive plays too. Just all in all, this team just didn't. I really just feel like that if they would have made their shots, they would have been in this game. From an overall shooting perspective, okay, this team made 7 out of 30 threes. They were 7 for 30 from three-point range. Want to know what Boston was from three-point range? I'll tell you right now. 20 for 51. Let's do the math. They put up 21 more threes, and they made 14. How much did you lose by? You lost by 34 points. If you make 14 more threes, it's a close game. So there you have it. That's why you lost. And I don't want to count at the garbage time three-pointers, even though that does count. But I'm just saying that overall, the three-pointers weren't falling tonight. They did have looks, but also Boston made some good adjustments. They made James Harden into a passer. Harden was not making the shots tonight. He was ice cold. I don't know why, but it happens. And he has to just shake this one off. Tyrese Maxey has to just shake this one off and learn from the experience and utilize that as fuel. Going into Game 3, Game 4, and throughout the rest of the series. The series is not over. Okay, you kind of figured that something like this was going to happen. I actually personally am happy that they lost because I think that this is a sign of team growth right here. I do. Paul Reed could have been a lot better tonight, even though he wasn't all his fault. I thought Tobias Harris had some catch and shoot threes that he just should have drilled, and again, they just were not falling. What else could they have done differently? Well, I could say that they didn't necessarily do such a good job at guarding the zone. So, because of that, maybe I would have went with a couple of more athletic bigs out there. At times and get guys that could switch on the defensive side. Okay, if George Niang's not hitting his shots, I don't know why he was out there for as long as he was. maybe you pull the plug on him a little bit earlier. But you also have to recognize at the time that they were only down by like 6 points, like when he was getting a lot of run. But again, does that change the game? It might. I don't know. But he wasn't hitting his threes. He's been really cold as of lately. I don't know why. But Doc does have to make that switch. But other than that, this is not Doc Rivers' fault. The team just did not execute tonight. And that is just the plain and simple fact that everybody has to recognize. The coaching staff, I thought, played all right. I didn't think that they did anything bad whatsoever. Did Jaden Springer come in there too soon? No. That was just a sign where they said, you know what? We'll let Boston have theirs. We want Joel Embiid to rest up, and we want to get the starters a little bit more rest because you know what? We're going to go out there. We're going to defend home court. We're going to win Game 3 and really try to take Game 4 too. But again, if they lose Game 1, okay, we feel a lot differently about this game when it comes to a loss like this. But they won. There's a difference. They were able to win Game 1 because they fought through all the adversity that they've dealt with. And I've seen this team struggle. I've seen Boston struggle. This is going to go down to the wire. No team is perfect. And I've seen what both teams have their weaknesses in and what their strengths are. It's as plain and as simple as that. I didn't like the amount of turnovers that we had tonight. I thought that part of that was because of just Joel Embiid getting back into the swing of things and also, forgetting about how to pass out of the double team at times. There were some times where he was passing the ball and he thought that somebody was wide open, but then Marcus Smart was right there and he would just intercept the pass. There were certain plays I thought where he was just a little bit out of touch, but that's what happens when you're not playing competitive basketball for 2 weeks, and I'm not making any excuse for Joel Embiid because he has to be better. But I'm just saying that when you get out of that rhythm and you have to get back into rhythm and the ball is just, going through your hands, if the ball travels through you, what do you think is going to happen? If you're not hitting your shots and you're taking a lot of shots for the team, even though he didn't really take too many tonight, but the ball was going through him. It was going through right to him. That's what happened. They failed. They didn't hit their shots. And I thought that they had some good looks at times, but they also made some careless turnovers. And that stuff can be cleaned up. In the half-court sets, there were some plays where I saw that guys were just, losing their dribble, and they were just making some really bad passes. That's not on the coaching staff. That's on the players. Stop telling yourself that Doc Rivers was the problem tonight because he's not. And I have not been the biggest fan of Doc Rivers. The team just came out flat. What else could he have done besides maybe take George Niang out a little bit earlier in that first half? And I'm not saying that they would have won the game because of that. It may have been closer at the time, and maybe that gives them a little bit of a different boost, but does that change the outcome of the game? I think it's common sense. I really do. Okay, well, if you guys have anything in the chat that you guys want to say, I'll open the floor up to you guys. And yeah, you can also come into the call. We do have a Discord server. It's pinned down below in the comments section. Make sure that you join. I can definitely, take some calls if you'd like. And if you guys have any sort of thoughts or anything that you guys want to share about this Sixers game, make sure that you join the Discord server. And we can have a chat, you and I. So, but with that, I think that the other thing that is also really important to bring up is that I saw a stat on here, and I can't necessarily find it right now. Or was it? Where was it? Yeah, so Tyrese Maxey. He went 1 for 4 from 3 tonight. The problem with Maxey right now is that he's hitting a wall. I've always said that guys that come into their prime, they have to face adversity. They just do. No matter if you're a superstar, an all-star, or just a player, I don't care what it is for. There's some sort of adversity that you have to overcome. And Maxey, I think, is still at a very young age. And he needs to see this experience and even game 1 as well as an experience for growth. I was actually really happy that Maxey took a lot of shots in game 1. Tonight he took 14, and I'm satisfied with that. 14 in 30 minutes is actually pretty good. He needs to keep shooting. I want him to keep shooting. Because the only way that you get better is to just keep shooting. Shooters shoot. But in order to overcome the adversity, you have to keep doing it. There's just no doubt about it. Eventually the shots are going to fall. And I actually expect that on Friday night that he actually has a very good game. Because I know that he wants to get better. And I know that he takes the game so seriously because you listen to his podcast, right? You listen to Maxey on the mic. You listen to his press conferences. Just he as a person always wants to improve, and it's just in his blood. So I think that he'll come out there with a little bit more poise. I think that he'll also start making the shots. Hopefully he can start to establish himself early on because that would be really nice. But tonight, he wasn't shooting the ball well, and Boston exposed him. Plain and simple like that. But no. The series is not over. Okay? The Sixers were due for a loss tonight, and I'm happy that they got that out of the way. The job was done. You won game 1. You got a nice performance out of James Harden. You get the polar opposite. But it happens. It just does. It happens. Alrighty, let's see. Do we have anybody in the call here? Nope. Okay. We have nobody in the call. So if you guys in the future, if you guys want to come on here, if you guys want to give your thoughts about the Sixers or about the Phillies, we'll actually be on here tomorrow afternoon for a Phillies podcast ourselves, and we'll talk about the series and that disappointing series loss, how they got swept in LA. Again, it's a long season, and there's always things to clean up, and that's how sports is, Nothing is perfect, and you just have to move on. I'm actually a little bit more frustrated about that, a lot more frustrated about that than this loss, even though this was a blowout. But prove me if I'm wrong, okay? If you guys have a point that you want to say about this, if I should be feeling a little bit worse, tell me why. Call me out. Because I'd like to hear from you, but I also have my own opinions, and I really feel like that this team can still get it done. I figured that they were going to lose this game, and we all said coming into today that if they win game 2, that would be huge, but it's not a must-win situation. Hopefully they are able to win game 3, though, because it would be great if they defended home court. And they should. And that's my expectation. It's fine that they lost this game. How do you respond? Okay, when somebody's punching you and they knock you out, next time you face them, you got to get back into the rink and you got to figure out a strategy of how to counterpunch what they did. And I think that this team can still figure it out. I still don't trust Boston, But I also understand that the Sixers have their own weaknesses too. And I don't want to repeat myself, but that's how I really feel about this game. They laid an egg, and the shooting was just off tonight. That's all that I have to say. And with that, we're going to shut things down. But I just wanted to remind you guys to be sure that you like, be sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon too, so that way you know when I either go live or when I upload. We have a whole lot of content coming out this weekend, right? No games tomorrow. We got a Patriots pod, though, and we also got a Phillies pod. The Phillies pod will be tomorrow afternoon. And finally, we'll talk about the NFL draft tomorrow night, and I cannot wait to talk about how the Patriots did, because I actually thought that they had an all-right draft. It wasn't as bad as what a lot of people thought. So we'll talk about that tomorrow. Then on Friday, we'll be back for another Sixers game. We got a Sixers game on Saturday, and Sunday we'll have Game 4 of the Sixers-Celtics series. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I love you all so much. Y'all are the best. And I will catch you all on the next one. Lila Tov.